Can you see
Here
it?
we go. So, all right. So, welcome to our Western Wisconsin chapter of ISHM webinar. Tonight we will be presenting with Marjorie Wall. She is our ISHM president-elect, and she is coming live from California. I am Leslie. I am the president-elect of the Western Wisconsin chapter of ISHM and the chairperson of IT. So tonight we're going to be looking at Marjorie Wall's presentation. If you want to go ahead and take it away, Marjorie.
Absolutely. And Leslie, thank you for having me. I think I shared with you, I have a soft spot for Wisconsin. I fell in love with your state when I visited Milwaukee a few years ago, and it's on my list of places to live in the future, just to be clear. Not public knowledge yet, but I am moving out your way in December. So you guys may have to help me figure out, cold weather appropriate gear. Because I've never seen snow in my life, and I'm moving to Ohio. So not quite Wisconsin, but I'm getting there. I'm sorry, was someone about to say something?
Nope, you're welcome. We will be happy to welcome you.
Okay. So I did prepare a presentation, a webinar about eliminating missing instruments with Six Sigma. I'm going to go through it, and there's parts I'm going to go through quick because I'm not expecting you guys to, learn all these tools. What I'm hoping that we get out of this is that you're inspired to go and take on some new process improvement initiatives, take on learning some new process improvement techniques. Because we know that in our field, we are struggling with changes, we're struggling with problems, challenges, resource constraints. And I feel very passionately that we all need to keep challenging ourselves to learn more and grow more so that we can really lead and grow and develop our industry to where it needs to be. I'm sure in Wisconsin, you guys have a lot of the same struggles that we have out here in California. And, when you're surgeon's getting ready to perform surgery and he's missing something critical, they don't care about all the reasons why it's not there. They just care that what they have isn't there for them and ready and available. So I'll go ahead and get started. And guys, you guys are an awesome group. We can make this as participatory as you like. I'd love to open it up and have some conversations with you guys as we go through this process. Okay? Okay. All right. So this is not sponsored, and the presentation, it represents my opinion and not any organization that I'm affiliated with. I have to give that disclaimer because my organization I work for, they're very picky with compliance. So this is my opinion, not the opinion of any organization that I am affiliated with. Okay, so we're going to talk about the importance of eliminating missing instruments. We're going to go through the steps to successfully implement Six Sigma project, and then we're going to talk about the importance of using Six Sigma and sterile processing to eliminate preventable missing instruments. Cool. All right. So missing instruments is one of those things that often, as SPD practitioners, we feel that as long as we mark it missing, we did our part. We may order it, we may do some work, but if it's documented missing, then we did our part and we've told the OR. We also have occurrences where trays are sent to the OR, but things are missing but not marked missing. So those are the kind of hidden missing instruments. But I'm really interested in solving both, because often we say, well, that's not a tray error because we marked it missing. So it's not a tray error, it's not a human error, but it is a system problem that we need to solve. And I know often we feel like it's one of those things that can't be solved, but I'm going to challenge that thought process that I think together this is something that we can definitely solve. Okay. So Six Sigma is a methodology. It's really a toolkit of different ways to look at problems and put that effort into figuring out the root cause of the problem and then figure out ways to solve it. The goal with Six Sigma is to get to 0 defects. So that would be, in this instance, in this case study, we're looking at 0 trays assembled with all of their, or I'm sorry, 0 trays assembled with the missing instrument. So every tray is complete 100% of the time. That's our goal. So we want to find the root cause of missing instruments and figure out interventions that we can do in the system to really prevent that from occurring. So this goes into exactly what is Sigma capability. I'm not going to go super deep into that, but basically it's not 1 out of 100 trays. It's 1 error. As you can see, the 690 defects out of 1 million. So that's, we're looking to get to the 6 Sigma level, which is 3.4 defects out of every 1 million trays assembled. So very low error rate is what we're looking for. Okay. So 6 Sigma, it is broken down into 5 categories: define, where we define the problem; measure, where we measure how often it happens; analyze, which is where we start doing the fun part, which is coming up with all of our solutions and interventions; improve, where we implement those interventions; and then control, where we make sure it sticks. So the first part, and you know what, this is where you should spend the most time, is really defining your problem. If you fail to define your problem, what's going to happen is you're going to implement a Band-Aid. So if you say missing instruments, these are being caused because we don't have a good enough backup wall, and we don't actually figure out the root cause of why we're having missing instruments, you may end up spending a ton of money on something you don't need to spend a ton of money on, because something else may be causing your problem. So you really want to spend a lot of time in that definition phase, where you're going to be figuring out the root cause of why you're having missing instruments or any other tray error or problem or system issue. The other thing is to make sure that you have all of the key people there, and it really needs to be your frontline staff. Leaders are great, but leaders don't understand what's actually happening day to day in the workflow. So it's important that we get those key people that are living these problems day to day into this and be a part of it and be a part of understanding the challenges. Okay. So 2 types of missing instruments. We've kind of already talked about that: documented and hidden. And, you know, we're going to look at both, but really the documented, those are the ones that I want to challenge you to focus on fixing. Okay. So a documented instrument, often we consider that to not be a tray error. It's common, it's frustrating for the OR team, and it's a process problem. SPD assembles the tray, the instruments weren't missing on tray menu. Often there's no consideration on whether it's a critical instrument or not, or if the surgery can even be performed with it missing. And then the tray arrives in the OR with a tag. Then there's delay in care because it turned out that it was a critical instrument, and the OR team has to spend time trying to find an alternative. And then SPD goes, well, we marked it missing. So that happens all the time. I've seen it. You know, we've all been in the field for a long time, and that's something that we've heard before, right? A little bit, Leslie? Yeah. Sometimes we hear that. Hidden missing instruments. So this is instruments missing on the set. Instruments are marked present on the tray menu. It's often bad data, employees rushing because of workload. You know, we're all challenged with staffing. So, you know, you're short staffed, there's a lot of work, people want to get it done. They go into that autopilot mode and then they make a mistake. And then sometimes staff document the wrong instrument. So that would be a hidden missing instrument. Okay. So once you've got that, you're actually going to define your project goal, and you're going to make a SMART goal. So this is, if you don't create a goal up front, you may solve something, but it may not be what you're setting out yourself to solve. So you really want to spend some time here figuring out exactly what your problem is, how you're going to measure it, and how you're going to solve it. Okay. Which moves us into that 6 Sigma measure. So in this 6 Sigma measure phase, this is where you're going to actually track how often these occurrences are. So if you have a tracking system, this is easy. You just run your report and you've got it. If you don't have a tracking system, you may have to develop a manual system where you're collecting how many trays are put up per day with something weren't missing, different ways to pull that data. But you have to measure it. You can't skip that step, because if you're not measuring your problem, you don't know if what you're doing is making any impact on your problem. Okay, so these are some examples. This is actually a project that we did at my hospital. So we focused on the average days instruments were missing, and then we also focused on the quantity of missing instruments, so the pure volume. Where you see this crazy thing that happened here, in this part of the project, we were using paper menus. We weren't on a computer tracking system, right? So in July is where we went on the computer tracking system. So our volume of missing instruments went up a lot, but that's also because we were doing a better job of tracking it. So you want to make sure you have some good data to measure. And again, I know this looks a little crazy, but a lot of the tracking systems can do this pretty easily for you. Okay.
How many cases
Yep.
do you have on average per day to have that many missing instruments?
It's a great question. Yeah, no, it's a great question. So at this campus, so this is actually two different campuses, the blue and the orange, which is kind of interesting because the orange campus is our main campus. It does about 60 to 70 surgeries per day. And then the blue campus is a surgery center that does probably about 30 cases per day. Yeah. Yeah. Is that comparable to your facilities? Is that what you're seeing as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have problems with missing instruments?
No.
No.
Definitely not. Okay,
Definitely
maybe
not. It's not something that ever happens at your facility. Okay.
okay, we have a few problems.
No, we all do. We all do. And this is really about learning how to open ourselves up to, find different ways to fix them and learning from each other. So I'm hoping I learned some tricks from you guys through this call. All right. So balancing measures. So you don't want to just track your error rates, so your quantity of missing instruments. You also want to track things to make sure that by solving it, you don't create another problem. Okay. So I'll give you an example. Often people want to work on their backlog. They want to have fewer trays down or fewer trays in decontam. So maybe they implement a new intervention and the trays get through decontam a lot faster and you don't have a backlog in decontam, but all of a sudden you have a lot of trays with bioburden, right? So you solved your time problem, but you created a big safety problem, okay? So for missing instruments, you want to have balancing measures to make sure that by solving this, you don't create another problem. For instance, like wrong instruments. So you don't want people substituting the wrong instrument just because they know you don't want them to mark it missing. So take some time and think through that. And, you want to make sure that whatever you're doing, you're not creating other problems. Okay. And this is an example of how you can do it. This is SPM, but any tracking system, whether it's SensaTrack, Sonar, they all have different ways to track different balancing measures. So really leverage your system so you're not creating more work for yourself. Okay. These are, again, some examples of balancing measures that my teams have done. The one on the left is where we were tracking OR reported errors. And then the one on the right is another campus with the same type of data. So that's where we were measuring how often we were getting OR complaints on tray errors while we were working on some turnaround projects. What do your tray errors look like? You have zero tray errors?
About 95% complete.
Pretty good, right? I mean, that's a good place to start. And it's impressive that you know where you're at, because that's half the battle, is knowing where you're at so you can know where you're going to get to. It's good. Okay. So voice of customer, you want to make sure that you're solving the OR's problem. So you want to hear their complaints. You can do surveys. My favorite thing to do is round through the OR. I don't want to only see the OR when I'm getting summoned to a room or called to a room to hear the problems during the case. I want to round through those OR suites and check in on them all the time. That way I'm building that relationship and that trust and that rapport with them. Okay. You can do interviews with some of your key stakeholders. You're going to have service line coordinators or techs that always scrub the case and they know what the doctors want. You're going to want to talk to those people and really get their input into what their challenges are. And you can do focus groups as well, but rounding and interviews are very, very effective, and it's a great way to get the voice of your customer. Okay. So this is where we used tray turnaround time as a balancing measure. I know this data looks crazy. Do you guys use process control charts like this? No? Okay. It's okay if you don't, and you don't have to do a Six Sigma project. But this is again where I want to share what you can do. If you look here, you see these crazy high numbers. So this is where we were having a lot of process. We did an intervention right here, and then it reduced. So we went from like, this was 14 hours average turnaround time, and now they're running at like 4 to 6 hours, which is where they should be. But this is a way that you can track it so that you can show the impact that your different interventions are making. So like these two interventions, PDSA number 4 and PDSA number 3, they really made no impact. And we know that because we track the data, right? Whereas some of these other ones made a huge impact. Okay. And again, you don't have to do it in this format, but it's a great way for you to know if what you're doing is working. Okay. These are some more examples. I won't go into them more deeper than I already have, but the point is you can collect your data and measure it in whatever way you're comfortable. Because you can do, these line charts like this, you can do bar graphs or the process control charts I just showed you. It's really what you're comfortable with and how you're going to collect and present your data to really build that story of is what you're doing working, because that story is what's going to help sell what you're doing and your need for resources to administration. So you're able to show, hey, we did this thing and it made this impact, like this one dropped it down severely, right? So it was a big impact. So, administrator, can you fund me to do this next project, right? I'm going to get you a little results and then you're going to give me resources and I'm going to get you even more results. Data is very powerful. Okay. So once you've got your measure, so we've defined and we've been measured, now we're going to analyze. This is the really fun part. This is where we're going to start doing our root causing and find out why we have these problems. This is the part that your team is going to enjoy, and you're going to want to spend the most time here. And, I encourage it. Do it. It's how you get their buy-in and their engagement to the work that you're doing. Is by spending that time with your team members to understand the problems and then, eventually come up with the solutions to the root cause. So spend a lot of time here and enjoy it. So Gimbal Walks, you can't solve anything from your desk. So if you're going to solve the world, you have to get out of your chair, get out of your office, go to the floor, talk to your people, and see the problems. You have to go to decontam, you have to go to the assembly side, you have to see their struggles and understand it, and you need to include your team members to get their voices. Because I don't know what they deal with day in and day out because I'm not in their shoes, right? I understand sterile processing, so I can speak that language. But they know the real problems that they're dealing with day to day. I know some of you are techs on the floor. You guys know what you're dealing with every day. And that very powerful voice needs to be shared during this very critical phase so that we can really understand the problems and really solve what needs to be solved. Okay. This is my team at a former hospital. This was actually at Intercommunity Hospital in Covina, California. And it was a heart hospital. And you can see this is the process map where we mapped out, we actually did it on a wall. If you see this was this giant, huge wall. And we mapped out every step of the process. And that's where we started looking at where we could make things better. So you guys, I'm sure your processes are, some may be more complex, some less complex. But it's really empowering going through this process with your team and talking through all the steps that they're doing to understand and get them to understand what they're doing, as well as get them to understand what each other are doing. My current team, we were working on our ureteroscope processes. And as we were doing the process map, we learned that every single person was processing the scopes differently, right? We have our IFU, they're supposed to follow the IFU, we train them to the IFU. But as you know, we made this safe space to where we're like, let's talk about what's really happening. We found out that there was all this variation in the processes and they were all doing it differently. Some of it good, some of it bad. But you know, the variation was creating high risk situations where we may not be compliant with the IFUs and we could be creating some patient safety issues. And this process of creating this map with the team members themselves is really what led to us being able to get into there and to understand the workflow and the processes and those challenges, right? So do this. If you take nothing else from what we're doing, do this. Are any of you guys, have you done process maps before? Do you like them? I was like, you don't get to say no to that question. You love them. Do you do them often? When's the last time you did one? Yeah. I respect that. I mean, we do them, we probably do them monthly. We do like a 4-hour employee process improvement monthly, and then we have smaller groups that meet throughout the month. But our process improvement team, they process map out at least 1 or 2 processes each month, or they may go back to one that they did before and edit it and updated it. So, you know, definitely, have you found when you, and I know it's been a while, did you find value in that from your teams? What was kind of the vibe? What was the response from doing those process maps? I'm putting you on the spot, Leslie.
That's fine. You put me on the spot. I'm getting feedback from everybody.
I know, I wish I could see all of you guys, but you have a good team.
Wish you like that. Yes.
Oh, you guys are
They say
awesome.
that
I love the smiles.
They do.
Right.
They
I
yeah,
love it.
they've gotten a lot of good feedback from all the staff when they do process maps. It's been a while, just mostly because of short staffing.
Mm-hmm. No, it's true. And actually, I'll be honest, I almost did a presentation with you and I went back and forth on it about staffing and engagement because that's such an important topic right now. No, I agree. Okay, so continuing. So have you done an Ishikawa fishbone diagram?
I have.
You have. Do you want to teach the slide? Come on, do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your project?
It was on a never event.
Okay.
Pretty much a dirty instrument had gotten to a patient multiple times, and we had to do a root cause analysis to figure out exactly where where that process could have been improved. And when we went through and we broke it down, everything from bedside cleaning all the way through to where it got sterilized, there was all these different areas that, the fishbone diagram have pointed out that we could have made improvements and that it could have been caught.
Yep. That's a great example. So if we're looking at I don't have an example like that here, but if we were looking at soiled instruments getting into the OR, that's going to be our problem right here, right? And then we're going to think, so what data could cause that to happen? What in the data world could cause that to happen? And that might be something like no access to IFUs, not knowing the right parameters for the sonic, that sort of thing, right? Methods, right? So that could be your processes. So do you have any problems in your processes or variation in your process? materials? Do you have equipment like the right brushes, the right detergents, enzymatics, sonicking, all of that stuff? Sonicking probably actually belongs here in equipment. Is your equipment down all the time? Is it operating to the right levels? Environment, right? Yep. And then the people, which is probably the most important part. So it helps you classify out all the different things that are leading to this problem so that you can figure out where to focus your interventions, right? So, and you may end up with a lot here through brainstorming. You're going to get so much, but then you get to pick what you're going to work on and start, chipping away at it. Yep. And you get to say cool words like Ishikawa. All right. Have you used this one?
I've seen it.
You're not going to invite me back because I keep like asking you questions.
No, I love it. I love data.
Oh, I have a sister data head. Yes. Okay. So when you do your fishbone diagram or any of your root cause, even if it's just brainstorming, everyone is going to have what they think we need to do to solve it. And this tool is highly effective of figuring out exactly what to tackle. Okay. So if you are short-staffed, you don't have time to do a full-blown Six Sigma project. What you can do is brainstorming of the root cause for the problems. You can do a fishbone or just pure brainstorming. And then what you do is you take everything that your team came up with and you put it on this chart. So you rank it by, is it a low impact to the problem? So does it really matter? Like how much of an impact does it make? Does it have a high impact, right? And then is it easy to implement or is it impossible or difficult to implement, right? So for us, that's what we did. So we looked at, is it like left in sync for longer time than normal? So this was us looking at our turnaround time in decontam. So how much of an impact did that really have on the turnaround time? Well, we said a little bit. Well, how easy or hard is that to solve? Well, we said it's kind of easy. We could put timers in there, right? So that ended up here. So it's possible that we could do these things, but they may not have a lot of impact. And then this is an example. So dirty liners left in the tray. Does your OR team ever leave disposable items
in the trays?
Does that happen?
Does that happen?
They do that? And does that add time to your processes in decontam?
Yeah.
Yep. Is it going to be easier or hard to get them to stop doing that? Okay. I think the one that's successful, we need to do an in-service with everyone on how to build a collaborative relationship with the OR. I see that webinar in the future, right? All right. So it can be easy if you have the right relationship with your OR, but we classify anything that requires a different team to take an action as difficult, right? It's easy to take ownership of what we need to do. It's harder to get someone else to do something, okay? So in this case, we classified it as difficult because it would require them doing something. So because of that, this got classified in the challenging area, right? And then what you do, once you do all this classification, whatever is up here, that's where you start, because this is your big wins, right? So if you can solve the things in this top left corner, those are the things that are going to give you the most impact, high impact level, and they're going to be the easiest to implement. And then as you check off each one of these, then you can go to your more difficult things or your easy wins, but may have low impact. But this is where the happy place for projects is. Sound right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know it sounds simple, but this tool has stopped many arguments in my teams from different people having their pet solution for how to solve things. you know, this thing that they wanted to do for so long. Well, when we really talked about it, like, does that contribute to the problem? Or how hard is that going to be to implement? And we were able to sort those. We were able to get people to take their personal emotions out of it and really think about the problem and what's the best way to solve the problem. Okay. Cool. So then comes the next fun part where we actually get to do something, right? This is improve. So do pilot test, do different PDSA cycles, you know, start taking these great ideas that your team's come up with and just do them, which is my favorite part. Okay. PDSA or PDCA, plan, do, check, act. So we always, so remember I showed you we have these different things. So every one that we implement is a different PDSA cycle. So we try one thing, see, does it work? Yes. Okay, cool. Try the next thing, does it work? Well, no, not really. Try another thing, does it work? Oh my God, it made it worse, right? And then try another thing and okay, it looks like we've got our solution here. Okay, so the point of the data isn't about the data in this case, but it's don't be afraid to experiment and try different things. See if it works, and if it doesn't work, course correct and try something else. Okay. So we're talking about missing instruments. I know I sidebarred there for a bit. I would like to share how we solved our missing instrument problem. Okay. So in our processing, we have these giant 50-gallon sinks, and we received, like I said, 60, 70 surgeries a day. We run 2 spine rooms and 3 joint rooms and 1 trauma room. So a heck of a lot of trays. And we batch all those trays together, we mix them, and then we send them through the washers, okay? But our department worked on a batch system. So we would do like 10 trays together and then send them through the washers together and then assemble them and then on and on and on. So this batch system was creating our workflow problems. And I'll explain why. But I want to show you this quick animation to understand how that one piece flow, which is what we ended up implementing, led to us solving not just our tray turnaround problems, but also our missing instrument problem. Okay, and I apologize for the music. Okay, it's not playing music good. So you can see when you're doing a first in, first out, one at a time, how they move through really quickly. And then when you're doing this batch processing, it's moving through in a batch system very slowly. And then when you're doing this big batch system up here, it's like even more slowly. So these guys have already processed all of these trays, and these guys are still trying to push their work through. Okay, so that's the benefit of one piece flow compared to batch reprocessing. So for us, added to it, we were also prioritizing trays. So we would do this batch processing of a bunch of priority trays together from multiple case carts. And then when we would go to assemble the trays on the assembly side, often the instruments would still be in decontam because, you know, OR mixes trays, right? So when we look at, okay, how do we stop the OR from mixing trays? That's difficult because we're asking another department to do something. So this was very difficult for my team. We had to go back and do a lot of reflection, like, how can we own our processes to make this better? And we ended up implementing a first in, first out, one piece flow system so that every case cart got washed together. So we didn't do prioritization through decontam anymore. We did a full case cart together, one case cart at a time. And then the trays were on the assembly side, organized together, one case cart at a time. Okay. And that is what solved our missing instrument problem, because staff no longer had to sort through 300 trays looking for their instruments. They were all together in this one batch. So this is magical. And I encourage you to always look at how you can implement one piece flow. Okay. You can also do spaghetti diagrams, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with because I hear. Oh. Hey,
Hello.
we're doing great on the technical side today. Hey, can you hear me?
Been recorded. Record your message.
Oh, okay. Okay, I think I gotcha.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I just want to high five you. We're doing great. This is good. We're resilient people. We're definitely SPD people.
All right, so we have a question on how do you get rid of dumpster diving?
How do you get rid of dumpster diving? Do you mean the broken instruments in the dumpster?
No, like the text, like the good instruments that get thrown away in the OR. Yeah, like the pins are still on the drapes and stuff.
Yeah, so that's where we started when we started our project, right? So OR actually blamed us for throwing away the instruments in Deacon Town. And they actually found some instruments in Deacon Town, which was awesome. That really helped us prove our point. And then, you know, our team said the OR is throwing the instruments away in the trash. And what we found through this project was that the bulk of the instruments were not going away in the trash in the OR. There are some towel clips, and then, you know, forceps, things, small things do happen. I'm not denying that. But we found the bulk of our instruments were from instruments being mixed in Deacon Town, or I'm sorry, mixed in the OR. And then trays getting prioritized through Deacon Town, and the staff, when they were assembling sets, they couldn't find what they needed. And that's where you have things happen like SPD, like assemble sets marked missing. The next morning, the OR coordinator comes down, goes through your department. Why is this instrument marked missing? It's critical, it's priority. I found it on the countertop in SPD. It wasn't that hard to find. Why did you mark it missing? Does that ever happen to you? Yeah. Like, yeah. If that ever happens to you, that's why. It's because the trays are mixed together, and then at the point of assembly, that instrument was probably either in another tray and difficult to find, or still in Deacon Town. So we were not at the point in this project, we were not able to stop the dumpster diving. We did work on that at another hospital, which I can tell you about for sure. But again, we found that the bulk of our missing instruments was caused by the OR mixing trays in the OR, and then us not being able to get them back to the right set. Cool. Okay. And I will go back to the dumpster diving because I do want to share what we did at the other hospital. But so 5S, you can see our before and after where we cleaned and organized our workstations. Aren't they beautiful?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do yours look better than that? Should I be embarrassed?
No.
No.
Same.
About the same. Well, ours truly look like the one on the left before. And we actually had techs that would try to do like what you see where they had like several trays that they were working on together. It was very interesting when we got into that. And that was part of why it's so important to understand what's actually happening on the floor and not just what you think is happening, because you might be surprised. Okay. We did organize our backup walls so that if something did go missing in the dumpster, we're able to get replacements. And then we did start data tracking what was marked missing and which case it came to. We were able to start collecting that data through SPM. So we did do that. And then after those interventions, you move into the control phase. I'm going to show you a bunch of data again. Don't freak out. The important thing is we solved problems, right? So a lot of different data analytics. This stuff is important because it helps you build stories for administration for the OR so that, you know, after you solved your missing instrument problem, they go and you have another missing instrument, they go, nothing's getting better, nothing's changing. Well, you're able to go, well, actually, things are changing, things have gotten better, right? Our workload has increased and our missing instrument volume has gone down. And being able to speak through data really helps get through those emotional conversations. Okay. So that is the full thing. Now that we've gone through that, I will answer the dumpster diving question and open it up to even more. Okay. All right. So what we did to solve the dumpster diving problem, and this was at a different facility because there we had a lot of problems and we were able to prove it was on the OR side. And I'm going to share this with a few things. I don't know if I would do it the same way today as what we did back then. What we did back then was we actually started having the SPD techs check the trays and decontam. And then if an instrument was missing, we would give it to the OR charge nurse who would then have the tech relieved from the room. And then all the bags, trash bags were labeled for the case that trash came from. So they would go back to those trash bags for that case and have to go dumpster diving. We did that for about, I think, 3-4 days, and then our missing instrument problem stopped. Again, I don't know if I would recommend that today. One, we're doing 70 surgeries per day. That's a lot more complex than a smaller facility. Today, I would probably do it through data, where do the intervention, solve what you can with your own processes. And then what's left, those are missing instruments, probably from OR discards, possibly, right? And you'll be able to get that data. And then you can track that data if you're scanning trays to a case back to which cases it came from, and then be able to see if you have any patterns in your surgical techs and use that information to build a partnership with your OR director. Go ahead, Leslie.
Yeah, that makes total sense because then you can lock it down to a specific tech in the room or a surgeon. Yeah.
Yep, that's a great point. But do that through data and analytics as much as you can, because data takes away the personal. What I've found in my experience, and I don't know if you have experienced the same thing, when you approach our OR partners and we want to build that close relationship with the OR partners, sometimes there's, a hierarchy conflict. And so as you're bringing them, complaints, you get a lot of complaints back. So it really neutralizes it when you're able to have those conversations through data and through that data filter, and that, we're putting the patient in the center and focusing on how we're going to solve this for patient care. That makes those conversations more effective from my experience. Yeah. Yeah. So any other questions from you guys?
No, you did fantastic. Yeah.
You guys did fantastic. I want to be invited back when y'all do the webinar on building a relationship with the OR.
Okay.
I'm so serious. Like, you guys, I know, Leslie, you do so much in the industry, and I know your whole group is dynamic. So any way that I can be a supporter and helping you guys get out there and partner in other places for webinars and presentations, let me know. I want to support you guys.
All right. I'll be in the process next week talking about legislation.
Yes. I will be listening into it and asking you questions in the chat. I'm really looking forward to it.
You could turn the tables on me.
I'm totally going to do that. No, absolutely. And do you guys listen in to Leslie when she's in the clubhouse and doing all this stuff? She's such a rock star.
No, they haven't.
They need to Thursday, right? Wait, today's Thursday. You should be on it.
Yep, I took a break. First.
All right. And so how else? Anything for me? I know I am ISHM president-elect. Is there anything from that perspective that I can answer for you guys or support you guys with? It's okay if there's not.
I can't think of anything right now, but I know that you are a powerhouse of knowledge.
Well, and I'm always here for any of you guys if y'all have any questions. What do y'all think of the name change?
I like the name change.
It's okay if you don't. It's okay. Or if you're undecided.
We're in agreement that we like the name change.
Awesome.
We think it'll be helpful down the road, especially with legislation.
Yeah. I think it'll be, and that's one of the reasons why I'm a supporter of it is, and again, I respect, even if you're not a supporter, I swear I want to hear your voice. But I think it's going to help us tell non-SPD people who SPD is, which is going to be powerful in the long run.
What's up, Isham?
Right? So are you saying HSPA or HSPA?
HSPA.
You have to think about it.
Yeah, no, I heard it was HSPA per Damian Burke.
I know. So thank you guys. And again, I am available. Leslie, share my contact info with the group. I love you guys. Anything I can do to support you, let me know. I love having random conversations about SPD innovation as well as the challenges. We have to support each other. It's a tough industry. So I'm here for you, and I hope you're here for me whenever we need it. And anything I can do to support you, I'm down. I will be in Ohio in December. So hopefully that's close enough. I can see y'all in person at some point in the future.
Yeah, the snow will be there.
So,
I'll support you. Yeah, you can come and visit us in the Cheesehead State.
I will. I love the cheese and the spotted cow
Yes. Yeah, you can't go wrong.
and the sausages, all of it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much. For anyone else who's joining us tonight online, we will be moving on to our chapter meeting, which is also on Zoom. You can find the link on our chapter website. It's right underneath of Marjorie's picture. So on the main page, you'll just scroll down until you reach the picture of Marjorie. The next one underneath will have the link to register and log in. We will see you shortly. Thank you. Thank you, Marjorie.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.